We at Lionhead in Guildford started the development of Fable 2 on the 21st of April 2005, with just a few key people. The team rapidly expanded, and by January 2007, more than 150 people were working on the project. We followed the team during this time, and we'll be taking you behind the scenes, showing you not only what motivates them, but also explaining the features to expect in Fable 2.
Back in 1998, I started a little company with my brother, Simon Carter. I had a dream of creating a fairy tale role-playing game, but we didn't want to go the usual geek route of unpronounceable weapons and things. We thought, well, why don't we give somebody who's never seen a role-playing game before something that they can get their teeth into, a story they can understand, something they can relate to, something which is a much more emotional experience than the usual sort of stat counting exercise.
Fable 1 received a lot of acclaim for breaking new ground, and in Fable 2 we really wanted to innovate further. We wanted gaming to be truly emotional.
Because we deal with love every day, if it's faked on screen, it can be very jarring. It can be very obvious that it's wrong, and so it's very difficult to get that right.
Love is actually a very, very important emotion to Fable 2. For the first time, you can be male or female. We're putting much more of an emphasis this time into family relationships, so you can have a wife and you can have a child. And frankly, unless you're going to pursue emotion, there's really no point to having a family and children.
You can choose to marry anyone you like in the game world, and so we're not scripting who you can fall in love with and why they'll fall in love with you, so we've got to try and make that realistic.
We're not talking about love in the soppy sense. We're talking about the fact that you care for something in the game, and even more importantly, things in the game care for you.
One way is through the introduction of a dog that loves you. It'll follow you around and serve as a companion on your adventures throughout Albion.
Firstly, and maybe most importantly, I wanted to show the quality that we were putting into the dog in the game. Everybody who sees that dog, they will say, that's a dog. The second thing is, I wanted to really get across to people how brave we're being with this dog. What we could have done is given you this dog and made him controllable by you. We give you no control over the dog. Just think about that a second.
What we do is we split up the way people think about the hero into like 5 separate axes.
Even though there are 5 axes of opinions, there are actually 10 extremes of those axes.
No control over the dog. You haven't got a dog button. And a lot of people would say, that's just mad, man. Well, how can I be engaged with something? What we've said is, you control the dog by playing the game. You control the dog by worrying about you as a hero. So it's not aggravating to you. I don't press a button when I go out with my dog. I think the very fact you don't control him makes him feel like something that has a mind and that has an agenda. And that agenda, first and foremost in that agenda, is his love for you. His willingness to sacrifice himself for you. His need to please you in everything that he does.
Fable is, of course, an action-adventure role-playing game with an important emphasis on the story. This is where the emotion plays an obvious role, and your decisions, your feelings will be paramount as you make the hard choices along the way.
If you look at the history of other visual media, cinema, for example, the addition of love and sort of emotive content has been a really big deal. If you look at Charlie Chaplin, he introduced emotion into a film called The Kid, and suddenly cinema was elevated to a new form of art. I'm not quite saying we're there yet, but I'd very, very much like to think that we're kind of in the vanguard of groups who are interested in this side of games rather than sheer thumb candy.
Actually, it's about drama. It's about you feeling, when you're playing Fable, things that you've never felt before. And if love is one of those emotions, we've won.
When we're developing a game, things go wrong, and every developer's nightmare becomes reality: bugs. From time to time, we stop developing new features and instead focus on fixing bugs.
Right, this week we're having a bug blitz, which is something we do now and again. The reason for that is that ever so often the build gets a bit clogged up and messy, and we have some reliability problems. So this week we've decided to have everyone sit down and work through some of the bugs.
I'm fixing bugs at the moment. Some rather nasty grouping bugs in the editor.
We've got hobs which jump out of foliage, so we've got ninja hobs.
Combat was a very important aspect of Fable 1, and Fable 2 is no different. We spend time on research and development at Lionhead, And during one of our experiments, we discovered an exciting new way to move forward with combat. Why not put everything on one button?
Well, having one button for combat in Fable 2, it kind of makes my job both harder and easier. It's harder in a sense that there's only fewer things a player can do with his hands, so you have to make sure that of all the enormous varieties of actions that the character can do in the game, you always get the one that is most appropriate for where you want to be. So you almost want the game to read the player's mind and do exactly what he intends to do at that specific time, which, as you can imagine, mind reading is quite a difficult thing to program.
The whole idea about it is to try and leverage everything that you can to make the combat more exciting without actually changing the combat itself.
Our goal is not to make combat look realistic, it's to make it believable. We want you to feel like you're in the game, hitting the enemies. It's not a realistic game. It's got creatures in it, it's got hobs, it's got gigantic trolls, you use magic. We want the combat to all fit together in this world, and we want the world to be believable, but it's not realistic.
These guys have made stuff out of crap, so bones, bits and pieces, whereas these guys kind of fashion bits and pieces out of metal.
The sheer size of the game means that some of the team members will have to work late into the evenings to fix their bugs. This relates to all aspects of the game, not just combat, and some of the team members will be facing more bugs than others.
The target is for all team members to clear their Pry 1 bugs this week.
I'm debugging the particle system and why at the moment the particles are really big and fat and ugly and they don't die out, so right now that's what I'm doing.
The magic system in Fable 2 is similar to Fable 1 in you get a range of spells for you to choose when to cast. Where it's different is we've tried to make it fit in with the whole one-button combat ethos of Fable 2. So we're trying to make spell casting accessible to the casual player, but with depth for the hardcore core player.
The most important factor in making combat believable is the reaction of the enemy. If they react in a way that's incredibly satisfying, it's just fantastic. And if you're close enough to the enemy and you press attack, you get to smack their head off a log, which is great. And then sets it up nicely for a finishing move.
Working out all the aspects of combat in Fable 2 is a huge task with many different factors that need to be taken into account. While some of us might know what it's like to actually wield a sword, it's a completely different matter to translate that into a convincing animation. And so in the early development stages, research is hugely important.
We did loads of research. We looked at videos, we looked at games, we just happened to find people around the studio that had life-sized weapons at home. Not completely real, but there were some life-size metal swords brought in, which it was really useful because we could go out into the car park and video ourselves doing specific moves for the hero. We got a sword master in called Richard Ryan, who showed us how he would actually fight with a sword. Quite a scary guy. He had a guitar case full of weapons and didn't mind getting quite close to us when he was demonstrating swings and things.
What we have here, we can see that this is the last month. The blue bars show us what's been fixed, and the red ones, all the bugs that have gone in. So the last 2 days, we've had a peak there, which is good, which means people are fixing things. They're also putting more bugs in, which isn't so good.
Fable 2 is set in a fictional world called Albion, which bears some resemblance to England during the Victorian times. The art team played a vital role in bringing the Fable world to life, as did the level designers who created the places in Fable 2.
What I did at the start when I was asked to put the art style for the game together is I researched every aspect of the art of the game and split it up into environments and creatures and made sure it was consistent with the design vision for the game.
We have, for instance, for the architecture in some of the towns, we've actually got somebody that's a trained architect here. We've got others that have worked on the previous Fable.
When we were doing the environments, what you've got to do is split up the environment team into architectural and organic for a start. There's definitely people that are more organic than others. Quite a few hippies on the team.
Well, currently one of the tasks I'm involved in with Fable 2 is foliage, and that basically means creating all of the green stuff that you see within the game. Any of the plants, any of the ground cover, any of the flowers, any of the bushes, I have some part in producing. The foliage and the local detail, as we call it in Fable 2, is very much more detailed. We're trying to go for a lot more on every front, really. So we've got a lot more different kinds, we've got a lot more different feels, and generally we've expanded the foliage as much as we could.
Oh, you're not filming me messing about with flowers again, are you, Sam? No, no. Let's film me doing something else. Oh.
What else do you do?
Loads of things. Oh.
All the areas in Fable 2 were originally mocked up using the Fable 1 engine. This allowed the programmers to create an editor that could be used by the level designers to start building the world of Fable 2, but using its own brand new engine and assets.
What we do is we create the tools that allow you to build games.
We make all the tools that are used for the development of Fable 2.
So one of the things that's a real struggle for game developers is fitting all of those assets into memory and onto the DVDs. What we've done is develop some